Hello and welcome to The Price of Football, the show that looks at the money behind the beautiful game with me, Kevin Day, and Liverpool University's Kieran Maguire. Both of us quite excited because later in the show we'll be hearing from Mark Underwood, Kit Supremo at Hummel UK. We've just spoken to him. I don't think he was that delighted, Kieran, when we promised to inundate him with some of the kit designs we've had in our old drawers since the school days. But he was polite enough to say, "Well, yeah, somebody in the team might eventually look at them." But it was a fascinating interview with a lot of really good insight into how kits are designed, made, the relationship between the club, and it was really, really interesting. And also why colours have got such strange names these days. But it's Newsday, Kieran. How are you? Did Nottingham Forest? Congratulations to them, who are now in the Premier League. That most expensive game in the world we talked about, our most valuable game, is now they've got that kick bollock scramble to try and buy enough players with that money to stay in the Premier League. Fantastic news for Forest. Proper old school club. So a lot of affection, especially for anybody who remembers the glory days of Clough and Taylor. Yeah. When the whole country used to want your national representative to win the European Cup, which has certainly changed in terms of modern culture. All is good. I'm thoroughly looking forward to the quiz on Thursday night as well. So we're all ready to go. Excellent. There is still one promotion place to sort out, and that's the last place in League Two, the National League playoff final taking place this weekend at the London Stadium, home of West Ham, between Grimsby and Solihull Moors. I know there was some disquiet when it was announced it was going to be at the London Stadium, Kieran, because all 7 of the teams that were going to be involved at the top of that division were based in the north, and now there's even more disquiet about the prices for that final. Yes, it's a long time since we've given the National League any stick. Yeah, and I think it's fair to say that they've seemed to have gone under our radar for a while, and that's actually quite good news. Yeah. But if you're an adult, you've got a choice of 2 prices of tickets: £40 or £45. I'm going. Wow. Hold on. Because we're recording this show on the Wednesday, and tonight at Wembley you can go to the meeting, what they call the finalissima between the champions of South America, Argentina, and the champions of Europe, Italy, and the cheapest tickets for that are £25, and you get to see Lionel Messi probably in his last ever appearance in this country. So. £40 to £45 are the ticket prices for the final of the playoffs. Plus, and this is where they really are starting to take the mickey, plus a £3 booking fee. And then they say, we're going to charge you a 99p digital delivery fee. Okay. What? Yeah, they're going to charge you for the privilege of printing off your ticket on your laptop using your ink and your electricity. That's an outrage. I mean, that's on top of the fact that it's on a Sunday. It's the Sunday at the end of a long bank holiday, so people will be travelling all over the place anyway. They've got to come from Cleethorpes and Grimsby and Solihull. Yep, and pay £45 for a ticket, plus £3 for a booking fee, plus 99p for the privilege of them sending you the ticket over the eve. I presume this is nothing to do with the London Stadium. So West Ham take no blame in this. This is entirely down to the National League. These prices will have been agreed between the landlord of the London Stadium, presumably, but and the National League, who must have had significant input. And then we've seen some responses. First of all, a huge hats off to the Grimsby Town Supporters Trust. They've set up a fighting fund to try to buy tickets to allow fans who otherwise couldn't afford. So they've already raised £20,000. Very good. From this, so if you go to their website, and if anybody listening wants to help out, they give details of their bank account, and they're trying to buy tickets because it is times are tough. And then Solihull Moors have put out a message to say they are surprised by the large number of concessionary tickets that are being bought, i.e., people are buying kids OAP tickets for 20 quid each. And they're going the full Mrs. Doubtfire in terms of how they dress for the match.
That's hilarious. But it's exploitation, Kieran. I mean, Grimsby were proud members of the Football League, and of course they're desperate to get back. Solihull Moors, this is all new for them. Their fans are going to go. They know that. The National League know that Grimsby fans and Solihull Moor fans are going to go. And I don't know what the average ticket prices are in the National League, but I'm guessing some of the shine, some of the gloss will have been taken off the celebrations for Solihull Moors and Grimsby. And, I mean, incidentally, that Wrexham-Grimsby game was astonishing.
Yes.
But suddenly Grimsby fans are on their way home celebrating, and they get the news that not only have they probably got to spend upwards of 60, 70, 80 quid or more to get down to London, they've got to spend 45 quid on a ticket. And another £3 and another 99 pence. It is. There's no other word for it, Kieran. It's exploitation. It's shocking.
It is. It's a great achievement to get to the final. It will be a memorable occasion, but you don't like feeling that somebody's taking your trousers down. And
really do. Yeah. Also, I'm quite disappointed to be missing Lionel Messel's last game tonight. He's gone under the radar, that player. He's been totally dominated by the other one, hasn't he? Michael Owen has come in for criticism over claims about his new NFTs, non-fungible tokens. I don't see how he can come in for criticism, Kieran, because he made it quite plain that it's impossible to lose money on these. He spelt it out in some detail, so why are we criticising
it? he did indeed. So Michael Owen has agreed to have non-fungible tokens, and for those people who are unfamiliar, it gives you digital ownership of perhaps a picture of Michael Owen at some of the iconic moments of his career. Perhaps that time when he was at the Soccer Skills course and he decided to hit 22 goals past a 13-year-old goalkeeper and celebrate each one.
Yeah.
Good stuff, Michael.
Or that time he dived for a penalty against Argentina, yes. Or that time at Ascot when he point blank refused to talk to me. And then when he did, said live on air, if I'd known it was you, I wouldn't have done this interview. I still don't know what I've done to upset him, but obviously I've never forgotten it.
So, he came out and said, and I quote, "My NFTs will be the first ever that can't lose their initial value." And you thought, wow. And then sort of that saying we've got, if something sounds too good to be true, it's normally not true. So let's say that you can buy these things first. Let's say that, I don't know what I've not looked at the price. Let's say if you go and pay 50 quid each for a photograph of Michael Owen, which anybody else can copy and download. And I think we've said this before. It's the but you've got a certificate of authenticity on your phone. And we've said this before. It's the equivalent of letting everybody else sleep with your partner. Yeah, they could be husband or wife, but you've got the marriage certificate, so that's okay. Yeah, that's the argument that's put forward by the fans of NFTs.
Kieran, can I just thank you for putting it like that rather than the rather more blunt way you put it during the live show at Accrington?
Well, come along to a live show and you can get the full version. You can get the full version of that. I don't want to upset producer Guy. I don't want one of those soulful conversations. He says, "Kieran, you might upset some of the sponsors if you say it that way." Yeah. So he says that they can't lose their initial value, and indeed you can't, because you are not allowed to sell them at below the original purchase price, which means that they are worthless. If the market value is below. So if let's say they're 50 quid and there's nobody offering you more than 50 quid, and you say, well, okay, I'll sell it for 40, you're not allowed to sell it for 40. So you have to accept that you've got this picture of Michael Owen grumpily going along with an interview with you at Ascot, and nobody wants to buy it. And therefore, or nobody wants to buy it at the original price. So I think it is disingenuous in the extreme for him to come out with that comment. Now, it could be that he didn't quite understand the nature of the arrangement. We'll but if you don't, then don't sign up for it in the first place. So if you're trying to sell something and you don't know what it means, then how can you expect people to buy it in good faith at the same time?
Yeah, he didn't understand some fairly simple questions that I asked him at Ascot, so I'm not surprised. But I mean, technically, he is correct. I mean, in sort of full yes, Prime Minister mode, he is technically correct. But as you say, for people like me who don't understand that thing, it is sort of disingenuous in the least, because you would buy it expecting to be sitting on a little gold mine, basically. Like I'm only ever going to be making a profit out of this, but only because you can't sell it at a loss. That's a strange rule. It's the one we'll keep an eye on. Redbird Capital Partners, who we have mentioned on many occasions, have reached an agreement to buy Milan, AC Milan.
Yes, this is a deal that's gone through. I think it's Milan have been subject to pretty much a corporate pass the parcel in recent years. They were owned, of course, by Silvio Berlusconi, who I've seen some pictures of him recently, and he's looking more and more like Max Headroom as the day goes by. But I think the lad's had a bit of work done, to put it mildly.
He's kept several scaffolding companies in work in Milan. He's had a lot of work done, Kieran, let's face it.
Indeed. So he sold it to owners who then got into financial problems, and they then sold it to a company called Elliott, who bought it for €300 million about 4 years ago, and they've now sold it to Redbird Capital, which is a very, very big fund owned by or controlled by a guy called Jerry Cardinale for $1.2 billion. So this is, people say, why buy a football club? Can you make money? Well, they've quadrupled their investment over 4 years.
Wow.
And that's more money than even some of Uncle Terry's schemes that used to encourage me to go for. Now, Redbird Capital also own 10% of FSG, who are the Liverpool owners.
Yeah.
So they are just within the threshold, because we could have a potential problem if they owned more of FSG, and I don't think they will following this deal. In terms of what happens if Liverpool play Milan in group games or Champions League. So you are effectively you're capped at this 10% threshold in terms of ownership of two clubs. But it does show that even in an environment in which clubs are losing money, and remember Elliott have owned Milan during 4 years in which the clubs lost a lot of money, you can still make money on a sale, and this is why there is so much American interest in European and English football at present.
Yeah, do we know the amount of money involved in buying the club?
Yeah, it's 1.2 billion, so it's 4 times the amount that Elliott already bought it for, right. And I believe that Elliott are keeping a small stake themselves in the club. So I think they've probably sold around about 90% of it, and if the value goes up again, then they'll hope to cash in once more.
Right. A symbolic moment for Chelsea fans, Kieran. All the frozen assets at the club are now unfrozen, so I presume that means that they can go back to the club shop and buy the merchandise and so on and so forth?
Yes, they can. So the deal has gone through. We've seen a lot of movement at Companies House in recent days. Chelsea themselves have issued shares and have generated quite a bit of cash on the back of this, and I think that's quite important. We're recording this on the 1st of June, and remember the license granted by the government, which allowed Chelsea to trade, that expired on the 31st of May. So more and more details will be coming through on a daily basis as to the nature of the new directors, but we know it is Todd Bowley's organisation, and everything that you couldn't do at Chelsea for the last 3 months, things like selling tickets. So they can't, they couldn't sell season tickets for next season.
Oh, of course,
and I think one of the interesting things is, what will the prices be at Chelsea next season? Because American owners normally are trying to extract maximum cash from fans. I think personally it would be a spectacular own goal if they hiked the price of season tickets just because they could. I don't know what the position is at Palace, but it's been quite a few clubs have upped prices for next season for fans as far as season tickets are concerned, and it's not necessarily gone down well.
I think there's been a slight increase in ticket prices at Palace, but if you ordered yours before yesterday, you got it at the same price as last season. The NFL ticket price one is interesting. My brother-in-law, who he's American, so he's entitled to live in America. He lives in Colorado. He's a huge Denver Broncos fan. I was quite taken aback when he told me how much tickets cost over there, which also explains how upset many NFL fans were when one of their games was taken to Wembley, because they didn't get a refund for it. So that will be interesting to see whether... I mean, it might be that the Bowley Group think that Chelsea fans, of all fans, are able to afford a ticket hike, but they're not. Of course, they're not all West London oligarchs, are they?
No. And they're already right at the very top. I for my sins, work out on a spreadsheet the average cost per fan per season of supporting a club, and Chelsea are around about 1,650 quid. So they're right at the very top. I think Spurs are now the highest. So Chelsea are not far behind.
How do you work that out, Kit? Is that just on terms of a season ticket divided by 19 games, or is that including travel and...
No, that's purely season ticket price. So what I do, I take the total match day income, divide it by the average attendance, and that gives you your cost for the season, and then divide that by the number of home games to work out a price per ticket. But yeah, Chelsea are right up there at the very top.
So those 3,000 or so Chelsea fans who go to every away game are probably upwards of £5,000-6,000 in to support their club every season.
Yeah, by the time you factor in travel and everything, it's the same. It's the same for Liverpool fans. You think about the season that Liverpool had, that they played in every single possible match that the club could have played in terms of
63 games, I think it was.
So not cheap being a football fan these days, but we do it for the memories.
Yeah. Dean Hoyle is going to regain full control of Huddersfield Town. Is that because Huddersfield Town lost the playoff final?
No. What happened was Dean Hoyle was the owner of Huddersfield when they were promoted to the Premier League in 2017. And he then, after about 18 months, decided that he was going to sell to, I think it's Phil Hodgkinson, who bought the club. And I think by that stage, we knew that Huddersfield were not having a great season, were on their way to relegation. And then there were some problems with Phil Hodgkinson's own businesses. He ran a sort of it was a sort of law firm, one of these sort of no fee, no win organisations. And that was hit during COVID because court cases weren't necessarily taking place, and his other businesses, many of those went into administration. Dean Hoyle came back initially to cover some of the costs, but it looks like he's now taken full control back from Phil Hodgkinson. I'm not sure whether he was fully paid for the original sale of the business. I think there were some instalment payments, so I don't think it won't have cost him a lot, but at least Huddersfield Town fans will have a greater degree of security. And again, this goes back to what we said in relation to the fan-led review, that you are one owner or one ownership decision from financial challenges. And if the owner's business starts to struggle, and the owner is subsidising the football club, then the football club's going to suffer as well.
And who can forget, Kieran, Uncle Terry's legal firm with their unique catchphrase, which was all fee, no win.
Yes.
Mark Atanasio is the owner of the Milwaukee Brewers baseball team, and he's in talks over an investment in Norwich City. Now, I find this a very interesting one, Kieran, because if you asked me to name a club in the Championship or the Premier League that wouldn't be in talks with an overseas investor, it'd be Norwich City. It's not something you associate them. You associate them with a well-run but domestic football club. So this is an interesting one. And also the timing of it is interesting, considering they've just been relegated.
Yes, but by all accounts, he turned up in the director's box with some of his colleagues for the last home match of the season, where I think it's fair to say Norwich didn't exactly cover themselves in glory. And looking at social media, there appears to be a wave of dissent from Norwich City fans with regards to the present ownership structure. So Delia Smith and her partner, they don't put a lot of money into the club. Delia is she's not selling the same level of books as
of course not.
as when you and I used to learn how to cook an egg, thanks to her tutelage, and therefore she doesn't have the resources. But Norwich, as a club, cleans its face. It is run in a very sustainable, a very sensible manner, and I've got a lot of admiration for that. The problem is that if you get to the Premier League and you don't have a huge amount of money to spend, you're in that dangerous position of being relegated, and that's what's happened there. So there are some grumblings from elements of the fan base, not all. It now appears that Mark Atanasio is looking only to buy a minority stake. So around about 18% is the figure that I've seen quoted. How much is that going to cost him, and where is that money going to go to? And I think that's the most important thing, because there's two things that could happen. Delia Smith or some of the other shareholders could sell their shares to Mark Atanasio, and if that is the case, the club gets no money. This is merely two people doing a private deal. The alternative is that the club issues shares to him, in which case that there would be a cash injection for season 22-23. That does count towards financial fair play. The first. The first £24 million of money from shareholder injections contributes towards financial fair play or profitability and sustainability. So that would be beneficial to the club in terms of it going forwards, in terms of recruitment and retention of players over the course of the summer. So that's where we are. But yet again, it's we've just spoken about Chelsea. We've just we've spoken about Redbird, Milwaukee Brewers owner, all American investors. Now that's partly due to what they perceive as being a cheap market in the UK. It's been helped by the fact that sterling is tanking at present. Sterling's very weak, so it makes the UK clubs even cheaper than it was 12 months ago.
It also plays into the hands of those conspiracy theorists who are constantly telling us it only takes 14 American club owners in the Premier League and that's it, relegation's gone. I don't think Norwich City fans need worry. I mean, everything we know about Delia and her partner would indicate that they would never do anything that was not beneficial to Norwich City Football Club.
Yes, absolutely. I think they see themselves as custodians.
Yes, Stuart,
and that's great when you've got that at an individual club basis. It would be great if we could have that on a 92 club basis. Perhaps an independent regulator of football might help here.
For all of those of you at home playing independent regulator bingo, you had to wait 23 minutes. Arsenal's women's team made a profit of 24,000 in 2021, which sounds all right, but apparently the figures behind that tell a slightly different story.
Yes, many of the clubs in the WSL have lost money. Remember, season 2021 was behind closed doors, and we have seen small losses. But Arsenal published a profit, and I thought, that's fair play to them. They generated £4.2 million in the year. That's
wow,
good turnover.
Very good, yeah.
Yes. So I thought, well, let's delve into the small print, and then you find that of that £4.2 million, £3.8 million of it came from the parent club. It was effective. So 90% of Arsenal's revenue is coming from the parent, and that in many ways is absolutely great. The club has been very competitive. It has had a good season. But I think it is indicative of where we are as far as the WSL is concerned. It's in a startup industry position, and it's going to need support until it reaches that phase where it's effectively self-sustainable. But we're not that way yet, and I think we've still got a fair way to go, because match day revenues in 2021, they're going to be, you can't read too many conclusions from them. But if we go back the previous season, which was largely COVID-free, the club only made £90,000 for the whole season from ticket sales, and I think that's the challenge for the WSL. They want to get the numbers right, and in order to grow the audience who are physically turning up to matches, you're having to sell tickets at significantly, effectively discounted prices, or giving them to parties to turn up, and you'll see a great product. But then, how do you go from that position to start to charge a more sustainable, a more competitive fee in order to watch the matches?
That £3-point-something million that came from the parent team, does that count towards Arsenal's FFP?
It does, yes. So any monies paid any losses incurred by the men's team in relation to supporting the women's team are exempt from FFP. So it's one of the virtuous spending areas that the Premier League and the EFL are very keen to promote. Women's football, academy football, community schemes, all of these things which have an enhancing impact on the local community and the area.
Massive game for Scotland's national team tonight, Kieran, but interesting news from two of Scotland's clubs. Stenhousemuir made a profit of £130,000 in 2021, but Hamilton Academical lost £131,000 in 2021. My first reaction was, did Stenhousemuir and Hamilton have a £130,000 bet that one of them lost? But it's interesting. I mean, from Stenhousemuir's point of view, from what we've been talking about Scottish football recently, that seems like a huge number. But the Hamilton one is worrying, because we had a plaintive question just a few weeks ago from a Hamilton fan that led you to explain, because their fixture numbers, their crowd attendance has gone through the floor, and they've gone, it seems, in just a few seasons from a well-run club to one that's lost £131,000 in a year.
Yes, yeah, we are seeing there's an awful lot of results coming out for Scottish clubs on a daily basis at present for technical reasons. And in the main, the Scottish clubs are turning a profit. And then you can say, well, why is it that so many clubs in England lose money, and yet in Scotland, probably 70 or 80% of them are breaking even in a COVID year? First of all, you've got to give some credit. There's been some very, very generous benefactors to Scottish football who have spread the money around. The government's given on interest-free loans, which has helped cash flow. Yeah. But the other main issue is that the gaps between divisions, between the Premiership and the Championship, is only £500,000. So why gamble? Whereas we've just been talking about Forest's achievement. They're going to get an extra £100 to £120 million from going from the Championship to the Premier League. It's £500,000, the same situation in Scotland. So the incentive to gamble and lose lots of money doesn't exist in football. Fair play to Stenhousemuir. It's a terrible thing. It's one of those names we grew up with as kids. Could I pinpoint it on a map of Scotland? I think I'd probably struggle, but that's the same, and that's part of the beauty of football, because you do start to go to Google Maps after looking up these things. Scottish football is had an okay season 2021 because it doesn't live in the main outside of its means. But the Accies results aren't great. And hopefully they can start to reverse those. But I think they need to build a few bridges in terms of building up the fan numbers first.
There's no doubt, Kieran, probably the feel-good club of the year at the moment is Newcastle United. Their fans are happier than they have been for some time. But also good news for off-the-field, non-playing staff this week.
Yes. What's happened? Amanda Staveley's team have done sort of a root and branch review of the club. And I think it's fair to say that anybody that has worked on the shop floor at a Mike Ashley emporium in other industries won't have been overpaid, to put it mildly. And it turns out that the non-playing staff at Newcastle United under Ashley hadn't received a pay rise for some time. Especially if they were, yes, we have minimum wage legislation, but for those that are not on minimum wage, they didn't do particularly well. And as a result of this review, I think there's been a very significant addressing of this issue, because a football club is more than the first team squad and the manager. It is all about being a team, and that applies from the person on reception who answers the phone or greets somebody as they come through the front door, to the cleaners, to the kit staff. Every single person is a cog in that machine, and if you've got a lot of people with smiles on their faces, that makes the marginal difference to the players as well.
Of course,
it makes them feel more welcome. So fair play to Newcastle, and when I put this story out, there was a pushback from some fans of other clubs to say that it's all to do with sports washing and so on. But this is giving working class people who are working in an office in Newcastle United additional money, and I think you can separate that from the socio-political issues of the Middle East era.
I don't think there's absolutely any doubt that there's an element of sports washing in their purchase of Newcastle United, but as you say, that's entirely different from recognising that the staff there should be paid a decent wage and haven't been for some time. No, so hats off, congratulations to everybody involved in making that decision. A final news story before we talk to the kit man. A report has discredited FIFA's claims around carbon neutrality about this year's World Cup. I mean, I will end up watching the World Cup, of course I would, but again, this is yet another reason why you just wake up in the morning thinking, why on earth is it there in the first place?
Yes, it's got this claim of FIFA's has got about as much credibility as that of the French Interior Minister with the, what was it, 40,000 fake tickets?
Oh my God! I know. Well, it clearly didn't occur to the Interior Minister that several thousand people in that crowd were journalists. There was a lot of journalists being kettled by the French police trying to get in to a game where they may not have paid for tickets, but 39,000 other people had paid a lot of money for legitimate tickets. So we discussed this on Sunday again. It's just like they just assumed they could blame the reputation of Liverpool fans and everyone would go, oh, fair enough, and they haven't. So good. If UEFA don't sort that out, then, well, they will. They've got to, but it needs a level of investigation as forensic as the one they did about England fans at Wembley. So there you are. Sorry.
So as far as FIFA is concerned, that they are desperate to have legitimisation of the World Cup that's taking place in November and December this year. And one of the things they have been saying, well, it's going to be a very sustainable World Cup because it's going to be carbon neutral and sustainability. We've got kids, I've got grandkids, and so on. I want a world where they can have a decent future in terms of the places where they grow up. So carbon neutrality makes a lot of sense, but FIFA's claims just simply don't stand up to scrutiny because we are now talking about fans having to be flown in from Saudi Arabia because there's not enough hotel rooms in Qatar itself. There's talk about effectively using cruise ships, sort of not too far away, and again the fans being having to be brought across through that means and so on. As soon as you actually start to crunch the numbers, the FIFA's claims fall apart very, very quickly. And if you could come up with something which is a load of old cobblers, just don't assume that everybody's going to swallow this nonsense. And this sort of really grates, and it goes back to the French interior position. It goes back to some of the stuff we hear from clubs themselves that they seem to think that we will swallow any old flannel, and we won't. And we won't challenge it. And as you yourself have said on many an occasion, you go to the Parsons Arms and you've got the whole all sectors of society there, from people who are doing manual jobs to people who are judges and lawyers and accountants, and yourself, we're working in the entertainment industry. We're not as dumb as they like to think we are.
We haven't got an actual judge in there. We've got some people who are very judgy, I have to say. But we do have lawyers. The hotel thing in Qatar is particularly galling, Kieran, because we know from experience, we've spoken to people involved in bids for tournaments, and one of the things right at the very top of the criteria is there is enough hotel accommodation for all the fans that are likely to come. So again, this World Cup was nodded through with FIFA knowing fully that there wasn't enough space to accommodate all the fans that want to go. So it's an outrage. But interview time, Kieran, it's only an hour since we did it, but I'm looking forward to hearing it again. Mark Underwood is the managing director of Elite Sports Group, which includes their exclusive brand partner, Danish kit manufacturer Hummel, supplier of outfits to clubs like Southampton, Everton, Bristol City, Coventry, Charlton and Kilmarnock here, and Las Palmas, Sporting Braga and Odense elsewhere. As you know, everybody, Kieran and I love a football kit, preferably XL. So we couldn't wait to talk to Mark, and this is what he had to say. Mark, thank you so much for joining us. Before we start, tell us a little bit about your background and how you came to Elite, and then a little bit about Hummel. So just a 5-minute essay question to start with.
Yeah, no problem, Kevin. And thanks for having me on here. I've been with Elite Group 7 years. And prior to that, I spent some time working for various brands. So I worked with Reebok, with Fred Perry, and then also did some licensing work. So I kind of fell into football kit licensing in my previous role, where I worked with Manchester City and Liverpool and the England FA on doing some licensed product for them. And then joined Elite 7 years ago, where we just signed the first license deal with Hummel, and at a time where Hummel were looking to get back into English football. So it was kind of a really good timing.
So, and for the benefit of those listeners, by which I mean me, Mark, who don't really understand what licensing means, can you just briefly explain what that process is, whereby you're licensed to sell the kit?
Yeah, sure. Yeah. So if you take a license with a club like Liverpool as an example, we would design and manufacture a collection of goods to be sold into the high street retailers, whether it be Sports Direct or JD Sports, and basically we would be granted a license right to use the club's intellectual property to manufacture those goods, sell it to the high street, and basically pay the football club a royalty.
Right, and this is as well as producing the kit for the club, would that be?
No. This is completely separate. So it's separate to the technical rights that they grant that supply the club. This is just pretty much almost like a leisurewear, fashion, sportswear license.
I see, but you do supply kit to Southampton, Everton, other clubs like that, as we mentioned in our introduction, don't you?
Oh, absolutely, yeah. So under the Hummel brand, we have full rights to manufacture and supply all of our 22 clubs now that we supply with Hummel.
Yeah. And for those people around the world who aren't really aware of Hummel, they are a really iconic brand in Denmark, aren't they? I mean, they're established in 1923, and they're a brand that the Danish people are proud of, and they're very proud of their Danish roots, aren't they?
Yeah, completely. I mean, it's not until you actually travel to Denmark or Sweden where you realise how powerful Hummel is as a brand,
right?
Because it's as strong as Adidas and Nike in that region. So you suddenly notice when you're on the aeroplane that half the aeroplane are wearing the brand.
Oh wow!
Yeah, it's very, very strong, and it's got great roots in the territory. It's signed a long-term deal with the Danish national team. And obviously with what happened to Eriksson at the Euros, where Denmark became everyone's second team, I think they broke all records with the amount of replica product that they sold for that tournament.
Even before the Christian Eriksen thing, I think for a lot of football fans, Denmark was sort of their national team, second national team anyway. You always enjoyed watching Denmark play, partly because you would see that huge red wall of Danish fans wearing the lovely bright red.
Completely, yeah. And they've always had a good link with the English Premier League. Whether it be Schmeichel, but then also the people like Laudrup and more frequently now Schmeichel Jr. and Højbjerg and those sort of guys. So there's a good link with England and British football.
Mark, so many of the questions we get on the pod are about football kits. So many of them. Football shirts in particular. We get asked about the manufacturing process, the design process, the cost, bespoke versus off the shelf, the cost, third kits, the cost. We'll come on to all those things, especially the cost. But why is it, do you think, Mark, that football fans, myself and Kieran included, are obsessed with kits?
I mean, in my experience, you kind of find it's almost becomes a little bit of a religion.
Right.
The support of their football club that's been passed down by generations in a family, that it's a uniform that they wear, and as I said, it almost has kind of quite religious, impact on people's lives, and just it never ceases to amaze me when you launch a new kit how everybody is just desperate to get hold of the latest new design. So yeah, it's pretty I don't know whether it's because it's through the generations or what, but we certainly have really, really patriotic people that love these kits.
There are entire websites dedicated to leaking details of kit design. I probably spend as much time Googling Crystal Palace new kit as I do Crystal Palace new players.
Yeah, I mean, we actually, in a lot of cases, we have to sign NDAs with our football clubs so that we don't release these designs. I mean, it is literally some of the most best kept secrets on these designs, and you have all the guys on Twitter leaking these designs that they think that they've got it right, but there's so much interest around it. But you're right, it is the best kept secret.
It's certainly. I mean, I know a lot of people at Palace, at the club, and they will happily give me a hint or some gossip about who we're buying, who we're selling. Trying to get information out of them about the new kit is just impossible because I promise them, I say I won't tell anybody, and they go, yes, you will. You're not able to sit on that information, but there really is a wall of silence around the new kit, which of course makes it all the more exciting when the kit is revealed.
Completely, yeah. I mean, you see the spike around launch days where people are desperate to get it, and even sometimes you might launch a kit before you've got the stock in on kind of like a pre-sale, and there's just this clamour for people to get it because they've got a risk of missing out on it. So, yeah, for sure, it's pretty amazing.
Well, that's really interesting because Palace launched or revealed our kit, the wavy red and blue stripe kit, without having them to sell in the club shop. The away kit was available to sell, and the third kit was available to sell, but the home kit, it was probably two months in before the home kit was available to sell, which we all thought was typical Palace inefficiency. But it turned out, as I discovered, no, they wanted to build the clamour so that people were almost desperate to be the first to get hold of the home kit. I should point out that, as I said, both Kieran and I are obsessed with kits, Mark, but there is one difference, isn't that Kieran will happily wear another team shirt when he's out of his own house, which I think is shameful and I won't do. And I know Kieran's listening to this, and we'll bring him in later on, and he can be bowing his head when we bring him in. Can we deal with one question, Mark? And this is going to sound like a flippant question, but it's not, because it's probably the thing I get asked most in pubs. It really worries fans, especially men of a certain age. Are extra large shirts getting smaller?
Yeah. It is funny because we're always constantly approached about the size specifications of our jerseys, but no, we're certainly not slimming up our replica product. Obviously, there are certain clubs that like the Pro Fit, which is like a spray-on kit. I mean, I certainly wouldn't be able to use it, but no, we're not slimming down our replica product at all. No, we're actually going up to 5XL in certain clubs because of the demand. So
5XL,
yeah,
crikey.
Yeah.
I've got a bit of room for growth. Yeah, I mean, I was going to ask you that. I mean, whether you look at sort of statistics year on year and sort of decide, people seem to be getting bigger, so obviously we have to make the shirts bigger. But clearly, if you're going to 5XL, you're doing that anyway.
Yeah, there's demand for sure. Yeah. I mean, we do. We sell. The bigger sizes are the more popular for sure. But yeah, we're being totally stretched in terms of our sizing requirements.
Yeah, I know the chap who runs the club shop at Palace, and he said they teach new staff a specific spiel for when a man of a certain size asks for a Pro-Fit shirt. Just they point out the potential difficulties of them getting in. Can we get the cost question out of the way, Mark? As it comes up a lot with our listeners, and there's still a perception from very many people that shirts are made very cheaply a long way away and sold very expensively here. What are the basic economics of kit manufacture? Because I'm assuming that model I've just described is quite an old-fashioned one.
Yeah, I mean, the reality is that if you wanted to, you could manufacture a football jersey pretty cheaply, but there's quite a lot of that's actually changed in the market now. You know, we will only work with, and as most brands do, really, really well established, well audited factories in terms of their social compliance and the way that they manufacture. So. When you go out to Vietnam or China now and you look at these factories, they're certainly not maybe the sweatshops that people might have previously thought were manufacturing these jerseys. So, the quality of the manufacturing facilities has gone up massively, certainly in the last 10 years that I've seen. The reality is that half of the cost of a football jersey is mainly fabric, actually.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, you have lots of that cost is fabric. We're using recycled polyester now in all of our jerseys, which is more expensive than regular polyester. And of course, it's not just regular poly. On a lot of times, you have to put mesh into it and make it breathable and to be able to perform. So fabric's expensive. When you're doing a lot of very bespoke designs, it adds a lot of cost in as well because the trims that go into it, or if you're putting extra details in. And so the actual labour cost within a jersey is probably only about 25-30% of the cost of the jersey. But then, we now have some quite heightened cost with regards to transportation. But since COVID, we've seen the cost of freight containers just go up unbelievably. I mean, it's so expensive to move product around the world now. So, right. So I suppose a bit of a long-winded answer to your question is that it's probably not as cheap as people think it is to manufacture because it's not just a basic T-shirt.
Yeah, of course. But Kieran, I'll bring you in here, hopefully with your head still bowed in shame because you've been wearing that Berwick kit. So many people who talk to us feel that they are a hostage to fortune in a way because they feel that manufacturers know that they will buy the shirt no matter what the cost, and therefore manufacturers feel able to add expenses on, and it's the consumer, the buyer of the shirt that ends up paying for them.
Well, there's an element of that, but remember, ultimately, the price for the shirt will have been negotiated normally between the club and the manufacturer, and potentially a retailer as well, if it's going to the likes of JD Sports or Sports Direct. Those organisations are taking quite significant shares of profit as well. So, I think to point all of the blame at the manufacturer is harsh. I take on board Mark's comments. Certainly when I see some of the shirts which are supposedly, which are presumably are of the same standard as worn by the players, sort of to see a £40 hike. I think in terms of the New England shirt, I think Nike is selling it 75 regular and 115 for the pitch ready. I'm trying to work out whether there's an extra £40 of material there, but I think in terms of the pointing the fingers at the manufacturers is probably harsh because there are other parties taking a slice of the pie.
Mark, as well, another frequent complaint is the annual kit change, but I'm guessing that's not your decision, is it?
No, most clubs like to freshen up each season, and they like to create something new and fresh. So yeah, for sure, there's always a desire from clubs to freshen up jerseys each season. Yeah.
If one of your teams, for example, were like Forest Green and Brentford, and they said to you, "We want the kit made out of bamboo. We want the same design for 2 seasons." Do you think that's very laudable, very sustainable, or do you think, wow, it's going to be harder to make a profit out of
that? Difficult to say, really. I'll be really interested to see what happens with Brentford this year on their sales, because will fans buy another one? You'd think not, unless it's been through the wash the wrong way or something like that. So, not really sure on that one as to whether it will work. I mean, my gut feel would be straight away that the club will be missing out on very important revenues, because ultimately we're all trying to create revenue into the football club to allow them to buy better players to play on the pitch, right? So that's what it's all about, So it'll be interesting to see how that develops.
Do you know what, Mark? That's really interesting. And again, I'm going to bring Kieran in here because I haven't got a business brain at all. So my reaction to the Brentford thing was just, well, that's good for fans, but it didn't occur to me that they might have a second season where they're not selling shirts. So, Kieran, how much of a club's income at a level like Brentford would be from selling replica kit?
For Brentford, it won't be a huge amount of money because they're Brentford. They've got a local fan base. They're not Manchester United, who are looking under the terms of the Manchester United deal. They're getting 75 million a year from Adidas as effectively as a down payment, and then they get a commission on top. So I think for Brentford, we are looking, if they sell 20,000 shirts, 30,000 shirts, then you multiply that by 50 quid, you knock off VAT, you knock off the shares for not a huge amount will be coming to a club such as Brentford. And if you read what they have said, they are prepared to take that. I think it would be less than the difference in terms of one position in the Premier League. But equally, the additional money that you could get from having a fresh kit could give you that boost in terms of either retaining or signing a player, which could push you up that one place. So it's a difficult one on which to reach a financial conclusion. And I also say to people, it's a bit like, I think kits these days, it's a bit like phones. Apple bring out a new iPhone every year. You don't have to go and get rid of your first one and get the brand new one. And I think we are seeing a lot of fans not buying 3 kits a year. That they are effectively letting the home kit or the away kit, they get 2 seasons worth of use out of it. But there's, the kids are growing up, so therefore, they probably want a new shirt because they won't necessarily fit into the same one as last season.
Yeah, funny. I got my latest iPhone. I got the day before we lost the cup final at Wembley in 2016. Why I won't get rid of it, I don't know, because it's just full of photographs of disappointed Palace fans. But Mark, this is a question that really interests a lot of our listeners, and Kieran and I. When you get the contract to supply a team, a new contract, say you're supplying a team for the first time, how long does the process take from signing the contract to designing the kit to the first team walking out wearing it?
I suppose from end to end, it's roughly a year.
Okay, well, okay.
Yeah, because if you manufacture in Asia, you need kind of 3 months manufacturing time. You probably need another 2 months on the water to transport it over, and then there's just the backwards and forwards with the club on kit designs. We would normally take a brief from the club in terms of what they wanted the kits to be. The home kit is always the easiest one, but also the most difficult one because it will always be the same colour. So it's how do you make it a little bit different to last season, or what do you add into it in terms of detail? And with Hummel in the UK, we do a very, very bespoke attack on our kit. So we try and make sure we put the heartbeat of the football club or the city into the jersey. So we might go to a club with 20 or 30 different designs, and they will go backwards and forwards over a period of maybe 2 or 3 months to whittle it down to the actual final designs, and then we would move to a sample, get it sampled, present samples, and then we'd sign off before we replace our bulk orders. Normally in a kind of like a September, October of the previous season to make sure it's in for April, May of the following year.
Right. I want to come back to that design aspect, but can I just clarify? Did you just say the kits spend 2 months on the water? So it's 2 months transportation time.
Yes, it is. Yeah, because we would never. We would never plan to put anything on an aeroplane to transport it on. So it's all coming on a freight container through the Suez Canal and up and round and up to us. So we always allow. It's actually in the height of COVID, it was 11 weeks it was taken to get from Asia to the UK. But we generally allow 8 weeks. So
for 2 months of that process, the fate of those kits are entirely out of your hands.
Yeah. So if all of a sudden an ocean liner goes sideways in the Suez Canal, we've got a problem.
Wow. And we saw on the news, all of us, those pile-ups, as you mentioned earlier, the pile-ups at freight supply docks in this country. I mean, that must have been a very worrying time for you as well.
Yeah. I mean, it was not just our industry; it was every industry, right? Just to moving freight became really, really difficult. So all you can do is, you can plan, you can get your orders in early, get goods to leave on time, and then just keep your fingers crossed that nothing goes wrong.
I think I'm really interested to hear what you say about the home kit being more difficult. Because I wanted to ask whether. And you've semi-answered this already, and I'm pleased to hear that. Is tradition as important to you and to Hummel as it is to a club? I'm assuming if, for example, you got the contract at Crystal Palace, you wouldn't go to them and say, look, why don't you get rid of the red and blue stripes? But on the other side of that is like, if we do your traditional home kit, do you say, well, can we fill our boots with the away kit then? Or can we have the design for the third kit? Can we come up with something? Or is the club saying to you, no, we want this for each kit, and we want each kit has to incorporate various colours.
Yeah, it's really different, Kevin, club to club. To be fair, so the home kit will always be the home kit. We never ever say, okay, Southampton this season it's not going to be red and white as an example. So we know that's probably will always be the same colour. So the challenge there is just to make it different and put as much as you can into it. The away is always about clashes. So we need to make sure that, when the club travels away, that if someone clashes with red and white, then you're able to field the team in the correct kit. What you find is the one you can have a real play with is normally the third kit.
Yeah.
So that could be around a collaboration or an anniversary or a special edition. So yeah, home is always home. Away, think about the clash. And then third is your fun time, really.
I love the idea of fun time because it transpires that both Kieran and I were the sort of child who would waste a lot of time at school drawing shirt templates and then designing kit colours. Did you get people sending you on spec kit? All the
time.
Designers? Really?
Yeah, all the time. From every club, they've always got ideas, and some of them are pretty good actually. Yeah, we're always open to hear from people. I mean, probably the most iconic third kit that we've done in recent years was probably Coventry third kit 2 seasons ago.
Yeah,
I don't know if you saw it. We did a collaboration with the Specials, who are from Coventry. It was
of course.
It was the 40th anniversary of the Two-Tone album, kind of like the Ska movement. So that black and white checkerboard.
Yeah,
and, we're actually constantly asked to bring that back, and a white shirt with black and white checkerboards hadn't been done before, but now it's become a really, really iconic kit. And the Coventry fans, but also fans of the Specials all over the world, we were shipping really global on that front. So yeah, it does give you an opportunity for sure.
Well, do you know what? I'm amazed Kieran hasn't got that kit because he and I are both huge fans of the Specials. My wife is from just outside Coventry, so she's a huge fan of the Specials. It might be the first football kit I can get her to wear. It's black and white is fine, Mark, but I've got to ask you this, and I know it's an old man's question, but when did colours get such fancy names? Nothing's blue or red anymore. It's all peacock crimson. Does each kit manufacturer have a specific palette of fancy names, the sort of names you don't see outside a Farrow and Ball paint shop?
Yeah, I mean, we officially we all work with Pantone references, so they do all have codes.
Right.
But each manufacturer will call it its own special special name, to be fair. So yeah, we do kind of introduce that, and it's only because in the colour palette, there's 40 or 50 different shades of red. So we have to reference the like you say, the peacock or the crimson or whatever it might be with a particular Pantone code. So but it is different brand to brand, I believe.
And without necessarily giving us financial details, Mark, what is the difference between working with a club like Everton, for example, and a club like Cambridge United? Because again, that's something our listeners are very interested in. This idea of a bespoke kit for one team and a sort of more or less off-the-shelf kit for another. Is that how it works?
Varies brand to brand, Kevin, to be honest with you. I mean, we with Hummel in the UK, all of our clubs, like you say, whether it be Everton or Cambridge United, get a fully bespoke kit. So
all of them, okay.
Yes, we do. Yeah, all the designs are seriously thought through, and I think it's why we've been fairly successful recently, because it's all, none of it is templated. It's all very much bespoke in line with what the club brief and what they need and what we agree with. So, but that's not all brands. Some brands do use templates for sure.
And two short questions to finish finally, Mark, and I really do thank you for your time. The question we get asked at least once a week, I don't know why it obsesses people so much, is when you supply Southampton, Everton, Cambridge, Charlton, Coventry, how many sets of kit do you supply to each club at the start of each season?
It's very, very different for each club, Kevin, to be honest with you. So, we will within the kit contract, the club has a gifted element. So, we supply the club with a gifted element which supplies all of the teams, first teams, academies, women's teams. So that's all taken care of. And then, there is then a retail element of it which we supply, and it varies so unbelievably from club to club that a Premier League club like Everton compared to a League Two club, like we might have an Oldham Athletic or a Cambridge, they're hugely different. Hugely different.
Okay. And finally, Mark, Hummel have always supplied kits for different sports, like handball, for example. And in the past couple of years, you're supplying kits to rugby league teams now. And I noticed one in particular, a recent one, Cornwall Rugby League team. How different is the economics in kit supply to sports like rugby league compared to football? Because I would guess that there's a huge gulf in the money that a rugby league team would be able to spend on a kit supply than a Premier League football team.
Yeah, you're dead right. I mean, the amount of money in rugby league compared to Premier League football is just unbelievable, because they don't have the huge Sky money that's rocking in. So it's why you'll probably see 6 or 7 sponsors on a rugby league kit rather than a Premier League kit that will just have one, because they can't command the value in sponsorship. So very, very, very different sport. Great sport to be in. I love being within rugby league. Some of the most legendary players that have played the game are now in the commercial side of the club, because they obviously haven't made the money that a retired footballer would make. So, I think about Chris Radlinski at Wigan Warriors, who's their chief exec at the moment, who's heavily involved and a great guy and one of the greatest players to ever play the sport. Yeah. And very, very different. Very financially set up very, very differently. And then obviously from a kit perspective, we have to make the kit. We actually make the kit in Lithuania at a very, very highly technical bespoke factory that can produce jerseys where people are beating 10 bells out of each other for most of the game and trying to rip it off each other's backs. So it's quite a different challenge in that respect. Oh,
that's interesting. So the manufacturing process is different because they've got to be stronger and more durable.
Oh, for sure, yeah. Yeah, I mean, they do. The jerseys go through an unbelievable amount of tension and stress during the games because, as I said, that's just the nature of the sport.
It always makes me laugh when I'm watching football on TV and Gary Lineker or Jeff Stelling will talk about a legendary hardman football player, and you think you need to meet some rugby league players and some jockeys, and because they are, if you want proper hard sportsmen. Some of the story, I remember talking to a couple of rugby league players about the injuries that they had and still play through. It's like these blokes are trying to run off a broken leg. They're amazing. Mark, it's been really interesting to talk to you. I can't thank you enough for your time. There's a lot of insight in there. I suspect in a couple of weeks' time you might be getting some mysterious kit designs from an address in South London and an address in Sussex, because
love it.
And of course, if you've got, as we stop recording, Mark, if you have any information, I know you don't supply Palace, but if you've got any gossip about this, I thought I'd give it a go, Mark. You're not going to tell me.
Worth a try.
It's been great talking to you, Mark. Thank you very much indeed.
Pleasure. Thanks, guys.
I found it really interesting, that interview, Kieran. There's a lot of insight there. He acknowledged his understanding of how many fans still think that the kits are made too cheaply and sold too expensively. But there's a couple of things. It always happens. We start chatting to people when we've stopped recording. I was really interested in it because I asked him where they get their inspiration from kits. Do they look at other clubs that they're not involved with? And he said, no, their inspiration is all from history. They spend a lot of time on eBay buying as many old shirts of the club as they possibly could to make sure they've got the tradition right. And also a little bit of gossip. Well, it's not gossip, but it's just, I wish we'd got him to say this on it. I tried really hard to find out if he knew what Palace's kit was going to be. He didn't, or if he did, he didn't claim it. But it's 100 years next year. The Hummel was formed in 1923. So he said those clubs that have Hummel kits next season are in for a surprise, he said. So clearly there's something going on. But it was a fascinating interview, Kieran, and I'm sure you were more interested, or as interested, in the economics of the kit manufacturing as the actual designing with the colours.
Yeah, it was brilliant, and the length of time and the degree of care that goes into when you hear that they are potentially pitching up to 25 different variants of the shirt to the club itself, shows that it's not a case of, and I think this is, we're not here to blow smoke up Hummel's nose or even up their backside if I get the right place. But
I'll tell you what, I'll blow it up their nose, you blow it up the other end. How's that?
Right, okay. But the fact that they will give each of their clubs bespoke kits is absolutely fantastic, because there are other manufacturers where you are pretty certain, you go, oh, this looks very much like such and such a kit, and you realise that you are effectively being fobbed off as the cheap relation in the relationship, because you're not Manchester United, you're not Liverpool, you're not Bayern, and so on, and you're just getting something off the peg, which you could probably buy for 15 quid at a normal sports shop, and it just happens to have your badge sewn on as your second or third kit, and you feel just a little bit cheated. So fair play for Hummel for their approach of making something which is individual, and I think that's the advantage of pairing with one of the more idiosyncratic sports manufacturers. But as we said, they are huge in Scandinavia.
Yeah, I was pleasantly surprised by the answer to that question. It was one of those, I was actually looking forward to having a bit of a Paxman moment when I said to him, "Why? Come on now, why is it with the big clubs you do bespoke kits, but clubs like Cambridge, it's off the peg?" And so his answer threw me a little bit. He said, no, we take a bespoke approach to all the clubs. I particularly like that Coventry third kit as well, based on the 40th anniversary of the specials, which was great, a two-tone kit. Anyway, we'll be here all day if we keep talking about kits. And we can't, Kieran, because we've got to prepare for something tonight. Because tonight, Thursday, the 2nd of June, it's our end-of-season Price of Football Zoom quiz. We won't be posting a link on social media this time, as we explained. Instead, you can find the link in the description of this episode on your podcast app. Hope to see you there. And thank you to everyone who's donated to the pod via our Patreon page. If you'd like to join them and make a small monthly contribution to the pod, please go to patreon.com/priceoffootball. And if you have a question you'd like answered on the show, email us at questions@priceoffootball.com. In the meantime, I shall hand you over to Mr. Kieran Maguire for his customary farewell.
Well, as always, folks, thank you so much for your support for the show and the different ways in you keep us on our toes and you show what you like and what you don't like. Patreon is one method. For as little as £1 a month, you can help to running the show. And another way of doing that is to go to your podcast app. It could be Google Podcasts or Spotify or Apple Podcasts. And if you could give us a review, it helps us in the charts. And we've been as high as number 7 in the in the sports charts, which for a niche show we're absolutely dead chuffed about, and we're very grateful for that. According to Producer Guy, it's if you give us the 5 stars or whatever you think we're worth, that's the important thing. It doesn't matter what you write. You could even say you would rather the show was presented by Detective Harry Callahan from the 1970s movies featuring Clint Eastwood and Clint Boone of the Inspiral Carpets, and it doesn't make any difference to myself or Kevin, and it doesn't make a difference to apparently our position in the charts either.
I just love the idea of Detective Callahan saying, "Do you feel lucky, punk?" And Clint going, "I'm not a punk. I'm very far from being a punk." That's a great pairing. Thanks, everybody. Bye.
Bye.
The price of football. The price of football.